Hello to all of you. Hi, Toby.
Hello.
Sterling.
Hey, Jim. Hey, Caitlin.
Hi, Jim. Hi, everybody.
Penny.
Penny. Mary. Toby. Don.
Susan is out there somewhere.
Yeah, I see your name.
And Caitlin. We have more people coming in.
Whoops. I just lost it. Whoops. I got
Hi,
it.
Michael. So we'll give this a few minutes for people to come on in.
Hey, Jim.
Michael.
Hello, everybody.
I've been in touch with you many times, but glad to meet you. Actually, glad to meet a lot of you
Hey, still.
face to face.
Glad to meet you. See people face to face.
Yeah.
It's good.
It's not quite the same as face to face, but hey.
Right, but FaceTime to FaceTime, to borrow that.
Without mask.
I've told a lot of people, there are a lot of, poets across the United States I would have never, been on the same camera with.
Sure.
Had not been for the, the lockdown. So I'm trying to find a bright side to it.
And here we are. Hi, Neil.
Here we are. And I think there were over 40 people that were coming, Jim.
Quite a few signed up.
Neil, you're on mute.
Yeah. I sold a number of tickets, so that should help.
Excellent.
So Jim, remind us how much time or what we do.
Thank you, everyone. I'm no longer on mute.
There you are.
Yeah, hi.
I will cover
Hello,
all of
Michael.
that in just a minute.
Mary, and Jim, and Penny.
Yes.
People I know here. I know Toby through Verse Virtual.
Neat.
I know Penny, of course. I've got one of Penny's books.
And I have yours.
Yeah, you have mine.
Thank goodness for Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially in this. It's so nice to see everybody without a mask on their face.
Right?
Well, I've got quite a collection, quite frankly.
Oh, that's
But I seldom go out anymore. So it's like,
I know.
which shall I wear?
Yeah.
Our insurance company keeps sending us masks.
Oh, yeah.
I guess that's good. That's good. Oh, well. I was trying to get it level, but it's okay. This is not bad.
Why don't you sit on the thing and get it hot? All right, whatever.
Please, y'all, it's Toby here. If you can't hear me, would you let me know? Because people say they can't hear me and I am talking so loud.
It's very soft.
Oh, no.
When
It
it's your
sounds like
turn,
you're in a
when it's
tunnel,
your turn,
actually.
Toby, I will up my volume.
Thank you.
Toby, can you hear me okay? Toby, what you can do is at the bottom left of your Zoom window, there's a control that you can use to turn up your microphone. At the bottom left, you should see a picture of a microphone in your Zoom window.
That says mute. Okay.
And right next to that, there's an up arrow. You click on that up arrow and you'll see a menu.
Yeah.
In that menu is audio settings. You click that right at the bottom of it, click audio settings.
Okay, now make
And then see where it says test mic and it says there's a volume control underneath test mic.
Oh, yeah.
And turn that up.
Yeah. Hold on. Oh, it's way low. It doesn't want to go. Here,
Yeah, you just drag it up. You click on the slider and pull it to the right.
Okay.
Be insistent.
I'm trying. It doesn't want to do nothing. Come
Well,
on.
maybe Jim can do it for you.
I
Come
cannot
on,
control her
Toby, New
microphone.
Jersey, talk louder.
Gosh darn it, I'm clicking, it does not want to drag.
Hold the mouse down while you drag.
I don't know what the problem is then.
No, it's probably my fingers, I don't know. If my husband comes in, he can do it for me. Hey Jeff, can you help me?
Oh,
Oh.
Mhm.
Okay, hold on.
Hello, Alan.
Oh, it's working.
Hey, Alan.
Where's
No,
that?
thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, Caitlin, we have the real Caitlin, not just the photo.
Oh, look at all these people when I click on the right arrow.
Amazing.
See more people.
yeah, you just do this and the people appear. It's like magic.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm
That's
going to
all.
go ahead and get started. We will have more people joining, I'm sure. And I will allow them in as we progress. So I may be looking back and forth. Don't let that bother you. Just pretend I'm at a tennis match. So the first ever Verse Virtual Book Party. This was the brainchild or stimulated by Neil Creighton, who asked me if there was a possibility of him doing a book introduction at one of our readings. And I thought, well, why not amplify that? Let's give everyone a chance who's published a book in the last year or maybe before, who has such a poor audience and no chance to launch. So that was the impetus for a book party. And in honor of the book party, since I'm going to ride herd on all of you, I have dug out a hat I haven't worn in years. So here's how we're going to do this. This is an experiment. If it works, we're going to do lots more of them. What I would like to do is, as I explained in our correspondences, I want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself, your book, read a poem from that book, and then we'll pass off to the next author. I expect this to take less than an hour, or maybe a little more. I'm not that tied to an hour. In the comments section on the side under the chat, you should be able to put a link to where people can either contact you directly or where they can go to buy your book.
Oh, good.
Excuse me, Jim, the chat is disabled.
I was just going to say that.
That's crazy because I have chat popped up right here.
I have it too, but
But then it says
Oh, it says
disabled down at the
disabled.
bottom.
it says disabled. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Jim,
It's disabled.
if
Jim,
you,
Jim, you can see it because you're the host. There's a button near the center at the bottom that says security.
May not be the same, Steve.
Yeah.
Look at the right.
It looks like I have chat. I don't know.
Okay.
you
I have
all-
chat.
Oh, I actually have it.
Yeah,
Oh, it
but it
came
says
up.
You
disabled.
should all have it now.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, he enabled it.
So we
Okay.
should put in the link
It works.
right before we read or something.
Yeah, it works.
Okay.
Okay. So because Neil was the impetus for this, I'm giving him special privilege to introduce two books and read one poem from each. And as soon as he's done, we're going to pass off to the next author in line, which will be Stephen Deutsch.
Oh, you're ready.
Wow.
And when Stephen's done with his intro, read a poem, we're going to pass off to Carrie, et cetera, et cetera. If you don't have a list, that's okay, because I will tell you it's your turn. The order we're going to go in is Neil, Stephen, Carrie, Penny, Rose, Michael, Sarah, Marianne, Toby, Caitlin, and Sterling. Y'all got that?
Yep.
Got it.
I'll tell you when it's your turn.
Now, should we mute ourselves while the other person's reading, or are you going to do that?
I would prefer not to have to jump back and forth, so I would appreciate it if you would all do that.
Okay.
And we have some more fun joining us.
Steve, could you put speaker on? The one who's speaking?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, whatever.
All right, we are ready to go. Neil, you are up first. You have 2 books.
Thank you very much. I had a big year last year. I had 3 books published and another one accepted for this year. This is the second one, Loving Leah. I'm going to read a poem from that today. And I've got another one called Awakening, and I'll read a poem from that as well. Just to tell you a little bit about Loving Leah, I'll read you the blurb that Steve Kleeperton wrote. Alan's here. He also wrote a blurb on the back, but the first one says, Neil Crichton's fine collection, Loving Leah, with its echoes of Leah and white-hot emotional centre, is a symphony in a wounded key. Leah's daughter, Cordelia, confronts her mother's death and betrayal as she struggles back through memory and nature's healing power to the deep love that informed her childhood world. Crichton masterfully captures the sorrow of watching a beloved parent shrink away under the baleful influence of selfish daughters, and he renders Leah's death scene with great power. You will not come away from this work unmoved, and you'll be awed by the sense of hard-earned regeneration. Thank you, Steve, for writing that. It's a sort of a play on the idea of King Lear. It's a domestic tragedy. It's not the vast political tragedy of King Lear, but it's about a lot of the themes of aging, the disappointment of a sort of a spiritual disinheritance, I think. The first part goes backwards in time, and it's a third-person narrative about Leah and Cordelia's relationship with Leah. This is Leah with an H, by the way. The second part goes forward as a first-person narrative. So I'm just going to read you the first poem. I wondered what poem I would choose from this because it's an integrated whole, but I'll just read you this one. It's called Last Days. It is dangerous to leave Leah on her own. She sets the microwave timer for 3 hours. It bursts into flames. She loses her balance and falls, breaking her hip. Cordelia's sisters telephone her. Can she spend 1 day a week with Leah? Cordelia loves Leah and happily complies, although she remembers all those years where her sisters made her feel unwelcome in what had once been their family home. In springtime, she pushes Leah in her wheelchair. The days sparkle with blossom and birdsong. She wants Leah to see beauty again. Leah is terrified that Cordelia will let her go and set her careering downhill. Most weeks she takes Leah out to lunch, but Leah's world is so shrunken that she is happiest in her familiar chair, in the familiar room, with the television on an endlessly repetitive loop. Occasionally, she says strange things. One day, out of the blue, she says, "I hate wills. I really hate wills." Cordelia notices how Leah, once generous and kind in spirit, now apes the more critical thinking of her other 2 daughters. But at the end of each day, she looks at Cordelia with her gentle, kind eyes and summons a little of her old charm. "Thank you," she says. "You've saved my life." Leah has another stroke and is in a nursing home. Sometimes she forgets who Cordelia is. "This is my sister," she says, smiling proudly. On parting, there is always the same anxious response. "You're not leaving so soon?" Once, troubled, she looks at Cordelia and says, "Whatever will people think of me?" Then she turns and stares at the wall. One day, Cordelia arrives when a nurse is bathing Leah. "Leave me alone," she cries in anguish. "I don't want a bath. It's my bloody body." Cordelia is shocked. She has never heard Leah swear. Leah was always so calm and controlled. Your sisters insist, the nurse says. Cordelia visits for the last time. Leah is unconscious, her face shrunken, her cheeks deeply hollow. She is a tiny, fragile, skeletal thing. A ghastly look of death is gripping her, but Leah will still not let go. Something inside her is refusing to surrender. Cordelia weeps a torrent of tears. She gently places her hand on Leah's old hand. Her heart is filled with love and grief. Oh, mother, she says, mother, 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 my dear mother. Oh, my mother. That's that poem. Thank you, everyone. Thanks. Now I'm going to read one very different one. It's called The Diamond Python. It's an experience that my wife and I had walking west of Sydney in the Blue Mountains. The Diamond Python.
You've got 4 minutes, Neil.
I've still got 4 minutes.
You have 4 minutes to wrap up. If you finish early, that's okay.
Oh, okay. Well, I was rushing through there. But I think I'll just read this one out, and that'll do me for the time. Oh, this book is available, I should say, from Kelsey, and on Amazon. And this one is available from Cyberpress and on Amazon. So thanks, Jim, for doing this, and everyone for listening. The Diamond Python. Under a dome of unrelenting blue, we follow a high plateau littered with spring flowering, drop into a gully, cross a creek, wind our way along the sandstone cliff face, bend beneath overhangs, squeeze through narrow gaps between boulders until finally, there it is, a large, shaded rock shelf overlooking a spectacular network of chasms, sheer sandstone cliffs sunlit in their ancient weathering, distant waterfall, a wind-blown silver thread, river unspooling through the green-grey scrub, air full of wind sound and bird song. We drop our packs, sit in the shade. We think we have this solitary place to ourselves until the owner casually drops in and pokes his diamond head through a fissure next to an elbow. He slithers casually over a backpack, unhurriedly follows our retreating feet, unfurling his 9 feet of glory. Large of head, diamond flecked. He carries the beauty of the night sky along his thickly muscular length. He moves from person to person, slowly traverses the overhang, and then, branch by branch, with long practiced ingenuity, hauls his limbless mass up a tree. Time passes. The ancient cliffs grow shadows. We must retrace our steps, leave this privileged place. But as we go, we carry in our packs a weight of thankfulness for the Diamond Python, for the gift he has given us, for his beauty, size, grace, and power, and especially for his casual indifference towards we mere puny humans now struggling and laboring homewards through his beauty-filled world. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, Steve.
Must be me. You didn't tell me I'd be next.
Are next. Are you ready? Here we go.
Switch the gallery view. I don't know if I can. All right, I'm Steve Deutsch. I've been writing poetry now seriously for probably 8 to 10 years. After I retired as a fluid mechanicist from Penn State University, I'm fortunate enough to be in a poetry group with compatible people, and that's really helped me. I'm originally from Brooklyn, My brother was a nutcase. I grew up in the 60s and was affected by the whole mess in the Vietnam in the 1960s. And a lot of my poetry goes back to that, although not entirely autobiographical. I have 2 books with Kelsey. This one came out this year. It's called The Persistence of Memory. I had really high hopes, and so far I've gotten rid of 4 copies by leaving them on my front stoop. Anyway, they're available from Amazon, from Kelsey, from anyone in the center region. The Bellefonte Art Museum carries poetry books by all the local authors, which is very nice. And in keeping with my optimistic nature, most of my poems are really downers, but I've been feeling optimistic since the vaccine has started moving around. So this is the most optimistic poem I've probably ever written. Okay, and you can tell right away because the title of it is The Year We All Got Cancer. So how much more optimistic can you be than that? Okay, winter stayed. The April rain so cold, it left blisters of ice on an earth as scarred and pockmarked as a landscape mired in war. We waited through the freeze and thaw for some sign from the recalcitrant earth, anxiety growing with each passing day. The sun was of little use, peeking indifferently through the skeletal clouds as if late for an appointment on another planet. We had become a shivering muddle, a people resigned to winter, when we woke one day to wild things bursting, fields of dandelions and mustard greens, and in the most desolate spot of all, a stand of wild asparagus. That's it, I'm done.
That's marvelous. Thank you. Make sure you put the info in the chat so that we can contact you to buy a book, or
Okay, do that.
Kelsey or Amazon, whichever. Carrie, you're up.
I can explain. Here in the foothills, every story begins because someone opens her mouth. My great aunt turned 90 this month. She can still recite all the names. 82 dead, posted mine number 6, Millfield. My cousin weeps firsthand experience regarding Freedom Industries' gross negligence along the Elk River. It is no revelation that you blame us for our twang, and Billy Ray Cyrus for coal's carbon footprint and Make America Great Again. There's a kid with a mullet who lives near me whose pickup truck wields a giant Trump flag, so large he almost ran off the road, the flap obstructing his windshield. I saw him erecting it at the Piggly Wiggly parking lot like he was doing the most patriotic thing ever. Listen, he's a good kid. Volunteers at the dog shelter, first one out to shovel on snow days. So much of this willfulness is dependent on generations having been born here, knowing for a fact that poverty is not a moral failing or the result of not working hard enough. His great-great-great-grandfather died at post in mine number 6, having volunteered an extra shift. His granddad in Vietnam. His father works 2 jobs and serves as deacon at the First Baptist Church. I don't know about you, but far beyond the sermon, it's the music that pulls me in. Those gospel sagas steeped in survival and hallelujah, God's hands all over you. I'll fly away, oh glory, I'll fly away. To touch another with what has touched ourselves. Isn't that the reason humans developed language? To tell stories shared in caves or on some lonesome prairie around the fire. Why some work hard to uphold the commandments while others simply command and consume. Do unto others, we say, but you don't want to hear that story. So hello, everyone. My name is Carrie Gunter Seymour, and my book is A Place So Deep Inside America It Can't Be Seen, from Sheila Nagig Editions, which is a woman-owned small press out of Russell, Kentucky. And you can also find it on Amazon. I've already put that information in the chat, but I will put it in again. So I'm a 9th generation Appalachian. You might have figured that out from hearing my voice. My work is firmly attached to my home soil. Like traditional Southern storytellers, I build characters in my poems, and then I build upon those characters, and it all sort of comes together, a sense of place. And each poem is an examination of the long-lasting effects of stereotype, false narratives, and racism in Appalachia. So when I write, I speak my work in the voices of my mother, my grandmothers, my aunts, cousins, others who have loved and cared for me. And I hope I've tickled up some interest in you concerning my work. And I just want to say that I'm humbled and honored to spend this evening with these other fine poets showcased here tonight. And I especially want to thank Jim for his passion and dedication to Verse Virtual, and for bringing us all together tonight in celebration of our book. So thank you kindly for your attention.
Wonderful. I love that poem and the singing. Penny.
Yeah. Hi.
It's your
First,
turn.
thank you, Jim, for everything that you've done for us, including this wonderful evening. And so lovely to see. Carrie, you're a hard act to follow. I don't know. I am now in the South Jersey Shore area, about a half hour in from the Atlantic Ocean. I lived in North Jersey for a while, and then in the 90s moved to Santa Fe for 11 years to be with friends out there and discover a new midlife leap, and came back here because of family to New Jersey. And then when my late husband, Bill Higginson, died in 2008, shortly thereafter, I moved down here to be near my daughter and her family. And I love the ocean. I love the mountains. The new book, well, the book from last year, is a prayer. Can you see it? A prayer the body makes. And I could read what some people have said about it. I would say that it's a book that at bottom tries to celebrate what we have to be grateful for. It also explores my reactions still to the loss of Bill. And it just says, well, one thing Donna Hilbert said, Harder's poems are equally at home in lush landscapes and hospital rooms, beginning with physical detail and ending in a glimpse in eternity, as in the poem On Pikes Peak I Eat Donuts, which ends, you've done it, girl, you've done it, climbed above the tree line and come back. And I wrote that because an earlier time when I'd gone high in the West, I couldn't breathe, and I didn't realize it was because the cancer was stalking me. But this time I got up to the top of Pikes Peak after successful treatment and could breathe. So it was wonderful. So I also want to say that I just had a new book accepted from Kelsey, which is a conglomeration of all the poems not all, but many of the poems I've been writing and posting on Facebook, sort of my spiritual pandemic poetry practice. And that book is called Stillwater Days. And I don't know yet when it will be available. I'm waiting to hear. But I love seeing some of the rest of you in the Kelsey family. So I will read a Valentine's Day poem that reflects my many years of leading a grief support group after I moved down here for spousal loss. And it's called Valentine's Day at the Spousal Loss Support Group. One by one, they struggle in, some bringing heart-shaped boxes of candy to give the rest, others with simple valentines, bearing heartfelt notes of thanks to the group for mutual support. And then she enters, a bit late, a box of gooey donuts in her hand, their garish icing gleaming through the cellophane box lid, more than enough for all. Widowed now for 2 years, she's brought a variety, some iced with sticky chocolate, some neon pink, some glazed vanilla topped with multicolored sprinkles. She's sorry she was late, but she stopped to pick them up on her way because it's Valentine's Day. Her husband was a cop, and they always had donuts down at the station. We pass the box around carefully, lift out our choices, placing them on the red napkins she's also thought to bring. We always go out to lunch after meetings, and many of us shouldn't be eating this much sugar or don't really like the rich and gooey treats, but we eat them together while sharing our memories, tempering the bitter with the sweet. And thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Rose.
I have to unmute myself.
Yes, you do.
Hello, everybody. I think it's a wonderful idea, Jim. I'm very grateful. My book was also published at the height of COVID, and I had no prom party, no birthday party, nothing coming out. I'm Rosemary Böhm. I'm a German Brit who lives in Peru. And my book, I hope you can see it, the fourth one, the fourth poetry collection is called The Rain Girl. And that was published by Chaffinch Press and in Ireland, and is available everywhere where they sell books, basically, on the internet, and in England also in bookshops, good ones, of course. And I have a few blurbs, but I thought I'd better confess that at my age, I've been around the block a few times. And this book is about everything, poems about absolutely everything that came to mind. And I've grouped them, and there are 5 groups: The Collector, Instar, The Old Gods, Random, and It's a Wrap, which is basically the end of a film when they have a wrap party. And I've seen a lot of live, and sometimes I fell into it head first. And I've lived in many countries and I speak 5 languages. I don't say this to show off. I'm just saying this to explain to you that in my poems, you will find a lot of references to different countries, different cultures, sometimes different languages. And it just is inevitable that these things sneak into your poetry. And in The Rain Girl, I ask the reader simply to join me on this journey to inner and to outer worlds. I had to decide on a poem, and that was very difficult. And the one I've chosen might not be the best poem in the book, but it's certainly the most heartfelt. In my DNA, I have anti-racism, I have anti-xenophobia, I have a tremendous need for justice. So this seemed a good poem to choose. It's about refugees, and it's called Transylvania, or Beyond the Forest. White skirts over black stockings, white lace aprons, embroidered bodices, black pillbox hats on pulled back hair. They had come on horse or oxen-drawn wagons from the land beyond the forest, Siebenbergen, the land of 7 fortresses. Romanian Germans escaping the advancing Red Army in their Sunday best. Some of my friends threw stones. I remembered them when I watched the endless treks out of Bosnia. Old tractors if they were rich, hand-drawn carts if they were lucky, Grandma on an old sofa balancing precariously as she was drawn through craters left behind by shells or newly made by Serbian tanks, their faces blank. I thought of them again when I watched uncountable Africans snaking along red, dusty paths in bright dresses, colorful bundles on their heads, eyes dulled, their children subdued. The snow crunched under the skids of the sleigh. My mother's gloveless hand blew from the frost, swollen. White lines where the strings cut in. My feet in my brother's boots. A boy behind the shoveled heap of cold gray matter, pishing a pattern, hissing, fucking refugees. That's it. I'm done.
Thank you. Next up is Michael.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, let me introduce myself a little bit. I was born in New York, in the Bronx, yay Bronx, and grew up in New Jersey. I've lived in a lot of different states, Florida, California, Texas, North Carolina, and lived overseas for a few years teaching English. I've had 2 books come out in 2020. Morning Calm is one, and the other book is Time is Not a River, which I'm going to be reading from today. Same situation as everybody else. Really fortunate to have 2 books published in 1 year. But in the middle of a pandemic, all the readings, conferences, every place I was going to go shut down. And so that's that. I have 2 books coming out this year, a chapbook and another book published by the Poetry Society of Texas. I was the winner in the book manuscript contest for 2021. So I'm going to read one poem from here. Oops. Try not to cover my face. And this is called History Follows You Home. I was standing on the corner in downtown San Antonio, across the street from the Alamo, thinking about Santa Ana and Felix the cat, when a black guy with dreads and a Spurs t-shirt said, "Can you help me? I'm homeless." But I was too stressed out, worrying about Mexican history and an anthropomorphic cat, and maybe hung over on too many cervezas. So I hurried away, feeling bad afterwards. And the next time a panhandler asked me for money, I gave him all my change, some jelly beans and Santa Ana's prosthetic wooden leg. Which just goes to show you that history is not dead. It follows you home. And when you wake up the next morning, drools on your pillow and follows you around day after day, until even the neighbor you still get along with asks how long your guest is going to stick around, and you have no answer. Until one Saturday morning, Felix cartoons come on the TV, and history slinks out the back door, threatening to come back. So you shout out, "Don't let the door hit you on the ass on your way out." And smile when Felix takes on the whole Mexican army with his bag of tricks and his own mariachi band, and Santa Ana, chewing nervously on his mustache, retreats all the way back to Mexico City with both his legs still intact.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jim, thanks for wearing that hat.
All right. Next up is Sarah Carlton.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, my name is Sarah Carlton. I've been writing forever, but really only thought about trying to publish poetry in the last maybe 10 years or so. And my very first book came out around the end of February. Kelsey Books. Normally they have all kinds of events, reading events and things, and none of it happened this year. So it's just been kind of languishing. You know, my mother loves it, but anyway, Notes from the Girl Cave, that's the name of the book. And let me give you guys the links. Most of these books appeared in journals already, although there are a few fresh new ones, but it's basically just my favorites. I just wanted, for my first book, I wanted it just to be my favorite ones. So thank you, Rose. So today I'm going to read At the Smoothie Booth from my book, right? At the Smoothie Booth. Clumps of bees kiss the honey jug. Scores of them pile on pineapple slices, hover in scent, stick to juicy surfaces, pitch a hum just below bliss. I trust the thick buzz I rest on, even when the blender drowns it out. I stay and watch and sip my smoothie with ginger for a little sting. He tightens the top with fruit-soaked fingers, looks at me with his patch-free eye, says, "They'll push the lid off if you let them." And they do, nuzzling the screw thread with tiny bee hands, abuzz with honey lust. Scooping berries through the swarm, he tells me, "Bees love organic. Everywhere I go, the bees come to me." In a nearby field, colonies hide behind shimmer and daze. Soon they'll mill into view and fly this way, dense as a flock of starlings. That's it.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks.
Mary Ann.
Hi, this is Mary Ann Slick from Rockville, Maryland, and a few other places. I want to read to you from my book, Poetry en plein air, from Pony One Dog Press. Or if you want to be super cautious, you can order it on Amazon. Because, Pony One Dog Press is this nice little press. And, I encourage you to check the press out too. This is a collection of my poems. Actually, I've had other books, and this contains both new poems and poems from my books, and poems you might recognize from Verse Virtual. And I think the poem I want to read is In the City of Churches, which actually was the last poem that made it into the book. And I'm not from New York, but it's set in New York. It's set from my trip in Brooklyn. In the City of Churches, she spent all Sunday not finding one, as if they had raced ahead of her plodding path, as if her younger self had wished them away. Instead, the streets brought her cafes, old cookbooks in Polish, a zoo of toothy animals, dark red flowers crushed on the sidewalk. She thought she was dreaming, passing a wooden house, fading yellow amidst the brownstones. She wondered if the church she'd find would be wooden as well. Its stained glass made of tissue paper, its priest with his back to the congregation. He'd speak Lithuanian, not Latin. In this church, there would be no organ, no choir. 6 or 7 people from her family's Black and white photographs would loiter in the pews as the night hung on the last notes of a hymn. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, especially Jim, for organizing all this.
It's been fun. I'm already calling this a roaring success. Okay, Toby, it's time for you to unmute and go, girl.
There you go. And I should be louder.
I can hear you.
Oh, good. I do have to say for the New York people, Flatbush Avenue. But that was a long time ago. Thank you, by the way, Jim. My book is Symmetry, Earth and Sky, and you can get it from me. Whoops, here you go. I'd like to say that the cover photo was taken by my husband, Jeff Alfier, who is a beautiful poet and photographer. And so he did the cover on here. I'll put my email on after I'm done. And what do I want to say? It's 92 pages, 67 narrative poems of place. That's usually what I write. I have a dear, dear publisher friend that said he could only read one poem at a time because they were like 67 little novels. And so you would read them one at a time and live with those people for a while and then go on to the next one. So I don't know. I'm going to read a short poem at the back. I always try to end with something to my son. I also cry when I read, and I ugly cry, so I'm sorry in advance. It's called Postcard to My Son, Roaming the Halls of Academia. I'm crying already. Of course, it's a mother's prerogative to push and pull, but no one can keep you home. You wandered for years, planning your global exploration, learning the weathers of personal comfort, sky the color of breath at an open window, clean wash of rain amid the grapevines, and music spilling from room after room. Bright papers during nights so quiet, trees planted with rosemary carpets seem to listen. The scent brings memories so brilliant, your room hangs symphonies with your caught breath. Then let the cadence of steady footfalls and the low hum of voices be your lullabies. All the world gives you is an inch of open curtain. Imagination lets you out into the morning light. Thank you.
Thank you.
There we go.
Excellent.
Only a few tears.
I'm not familiar with this, Caitlin. What is this? Is
I'm
that
snapping? Those are my poetry snaps.
I love it. You're up. Your turn, Caitlin.
Oh, sorry. I thought I had longer to go. My bad. Okay, so hello, everyone. If you don't know me, I'm Caitlin. I live in Alaska, where I was born and where I've been most of my life, though I have done a fair amount of traveling elsewhere. And the book that I'm going to share with you today is called Interstitials. This is what it looks like. And this book is an amalgamation of little moments, is how I like to think about it. Hence the title, Interstitials, being those little in-betweens, things that are easily missed but make a bigger impact than maybe one might think. So like Rose, I had a hard time choosing which poem to read from this because they are snapshots of very different things, from Alaska to Rwanda to my time in college, family, music, there's a lot of different things at play here. But what I'm going to read for you is a poem called You Coffee Yesterday. And I suppose I should also mention this book has a few pictures in them. Some of them related to the poems and others just kind of nice illustrations, I thought. I'm trying to find, so here's one from a picture I took in Rwanda, if you can see that. But the poem I'm going to read is actually something that came about after a night out in Anchorage, which is about an hour from where I live. It's called You Coffee Yesterday. Rolling around my floorboard is an almost empty coffee cup. Enough liquid left to make a mess. It came from yesterday, not long before I met you in the thick of shadowed misery, masked by gin and quin and maraschino cherries, and your funky folk singing too. It was lovely and tragic. Then I made my way homeward, ignoring the stains from last night until this morning, when I looked at your life and imagined what he'd taken from you, saw the almost empty memory of him rolling around in your sweetened, swimming head, enough love left to make a mess. It was sublime, elegiac. And here we are now, laughing in the throes of sticky friendship, enough of that us to make a mess of my life, if I'm not careful and ever conscious of the almost empty space in which we might forget ourselves, rolling around in and under our own influence. That's the danger, the magic. And that's the poem. And before I go, I will say that this was published through Red Sweater Press, which is my company, and I print through Ingram. So if any of you guys have a manuscript and are shopping it around, you might check out Red Sweater Press. I'm going to leave you some links and let you know that you can sign up for my monthly newsletter if you'd like on either of the websites listed there. I'd love it if you bought from Red Sweater Press because then I can sign it for you. But if you, especially if you live out of the US, you'll have to go with Amazon because I can't ship out of the US right now. And then anything else I need to mention to you? I don't think so. Oh, yes. I am planning to publish a collection of short stories this fall. So stay tuned for that. I will share that with you guys when I have it. So thank you, Jim, and thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you, Caitlin. Our last reader, author is Sterling.
Okay, thank you very much. What I'd like to, well, about myself, basically, I was raised in California in the Bay Area. In fact, I even ended up teaching as an English professor for 35 years at Evergreen Valley College there before finally in 2017 moving to Washington State. And since then, I've been able to work on my own writing as opposed to that of my students. And what I'd like to share with you today is from my a book called Masks, Flash Fiction and Short Story. I have this, okay, I put it on up. I had 5 previous books of poetry, but I had never done anything with my fiction. So it was 2020 was supposed to be the big year, but of course it didn't exactly have much fanfare. Anyhow, the final thing I'm going to say is I also have a forthcoming book of poetry, Serpent's Tooth, that's supposed to come out sometime this year. Maybe I'll have to check out that Little Sweater Press or whatever that is of Caitlin's. But anyhow, what I'd like to read for you today is a prose poem that I wrote for Masks. And it was basically a composite of 2 women, 2 extraordinary women that I knew back in the day. Bag Lady Pastiche. An enduring fixture on a multicolor cellophane city collage. The 21st century Madonna clutches a canvas book bag, reflects on yesterday's sunrise, seeks desperate solutions to society's cancer. With dignity and grace, she lifts the metal lids off Dixie dumpsters, deftly skirting through the trash like an archaeologist, discovering treasures, remnants of a throwaway lost world, artifacts buried in youthful debris. Abstract memories, recaptured, collected, and arranged like a Smithsonian exhibition, became dressed individually with monologues, assuring her past a place in the present before the former slips from her visage forever without acknowledgement or recognition. This woman who owns the streets, parks, and alleyways clings to her cotton home, a bedroll that she carries by her side spring, summer, fall, and winter. But regardless of season, she invites people to cross her most recent threshold, swept clean with a counterbrush hanging from her neck like a medallion. Wearing her closet as proudly as Inanna, queen of the heavens, she absorbs the odors of smog, subways, factories, and the streets, reminding everyone she's the city's child, its messenger, its product. After blessing all children and potential benefactors, the bag lady's cryptic phrases and gestures anoint pedestrians with her pain, yet in return, they offer her only stares and consternation. Thank you very much.
Excellent. That wraps up our first book party. And as I said earlier, I'm counting this as an absolute success. I'm just delighted with the way this turned out. Thanks to all of you, not a single one of you went over time. That was excellent. Secondly, I'm going to, at this point, I'm going to stop recording this because I don't need any more of it. The good stuff's already happened.